Richard Brasser is not the picture most people have in mind when they hear the words federal prison. He is a former touring professional golfer who competed on tours around the world. He is an accomplished commercial pilot with thousands of hours in the air. He is an award-winning entrepreneur, honored by business groups and national media. He has advised the White House on business issues and stood on the steps of power as a respected voice for American small businesses. And most importantly, he is a husband and father who has worked his entire life to provide for his family. Years ago, Richard led a fast-growing technology company that had just secured major partnerships and was poised to be worth a fortune. But according to documents and internal communications, a small group of investors saw an opportunity. If they could quietly push the company into financial distress, they believed they could force a restructuring, buy more stock at a deeply discounted price, take control, and make immense profit once value rebounded. They pressured Richard to work for no salary for years, and deals that should have lifted the company to new heights mysteriously kept falling apart. Richard did not know that some of the very people who were once very close friends and trusted investors and supposed to support the business were allegedly working behind the scenes to weaken it. In the middle of that financial chaos, Richard discovered that payroll taxes for employees had not been properly paid. Instead of hiding it, he and his team went straight to the IRS. They entered the IRS Voluntary Disclosure Program, the formal process the government created for people who discover tax problems and want to fix them honestly. That program is designed to resolve tax issues and protect voluntary disclosures from criminal prosecution when they cooperate and pay what they owe. Richard did exactly what the IRS asked. With tax attorneys and advisors, he worked through the process, followed every instruction, and paid every dollar of tax, penalties, and interest. By August 2021, the government's own records showed that the trust fund taxes had been fully paid, and the personal tax liens on both responsible officers were removed. In other words, the IRS considered the matter resolved. Richard's case was later reviewed by one of the most experienced figures in the American tax system. A former senior official who has served as a federal prosecutor, the head of IRS criminal investigation, and a top leader of the IRS and Department of Justice Tax Division. After examining what happened, he wrote that the indictment of Richard Brasser was entirely unwarranted and one of the most egregious examples of prosecutorial discretion he had seen in decades of tax cases. Under normal circumstances, criminal tax cases start with the IRS. IRS criminal investigation develops a case, and only then does the Department of Justice decide whether to prosecute. In Richard's situation, something very different happened. After Richard voluntarily self-reported the tax issue to the IRS and began cooperating to address it, a small group of investors and bad actors started approaching government officials directly. One of those investors had a personal connection to a federal prosecutor. In an email that will be available at justiceforrichard.com, he describes a conversation where that contact allegedly coached them on how to present Richard to the FBI, not as a business dispute, but as a crime. The email explains that they were told to make it seem like embezzlement or a Ponzi scheme, to say that Richard had run off with their money, could not be found, and had possibly even defrauded insurance companies. In reality, Richard had not fled, was in regular contact, and the IRS had already been paid in full through the very program designed to resolve these issues. According to that email, if the local FBI office did not take the case, the contact inside the Department of Justice would raise it directly with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That is not how criminal tax cases are supposed to begin. The usual safeguards were completely bypassed. Eventually, despite the prior voluntary disclosure and full payment, Richard was indicted. He was charged with serious tax crimes that implied deceit and evasion. At trial, a jury acquitted him of the most serious charges, including the kinds of fraud and evasion the investors had tried to suggest. What remained was a narrow employment tax conviction tied to events that had already been disclosed to and financially resolved with the IRS long before. Despite voluntarily coming forward, paying everything he owed, and being cleared of the most damaging allegations, Richard now faces a sentence in a high-security federal prison, alongside violent offenders, for a matter that began with him trying to do the right thing. If this can happen to someone who stepped forward, told the truth, entered the IRS's own voluntary disclosure program, and paid all taxes, penalties, and interest years before indictment, what does that say about the system the rest of us are supposed to trust? The message is chilling. Cooperation and honesty may not protect you, even when you do exactly what the government tells you to do. Richard Brasser is not a danger to anyone. He followed the rules the IRS laid out. He tried to make things right. Yet he is scheduled to report to federal prison on January 15th. If you believe this is wrong, there are concrete steps you can take. Write to the White House and ask for a presidential pardon or commutation in Richard's case. Write to the Office of the Pardon Attorney and urge them to review the full record and the evidence you have seen here. Write to your senators and representatives and ask why a resolved voluntary disclosure case was turned into a criminal prosecution in this way. And please, share this video with others so the facts are not buried. For those who want to examine the evidence themselves, including the IRS letters, lien releases, emails, and expert statements, visit justiceforrichard.com. Every document we've referenced here, and many more, are available there for you to read and judge for yourself.